Welcome back, everyone, to a new episode of the Johnny Rogers Show. I'm very excited for my guest today. She is an award-winning stand-up comedian, actor, and writer with a new comedy special out right now called Take It Easy. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for my friend and yours, Sandra Battaglini. Welcome to the show, Sandra.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, did an amazing intro for you. I'm sure you're gonna love it. You
I'm sure.
you just got back from Italy. How was your trip?
Oh, unreal. So amazing over there. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. How many times have you been there?
Maybe this is my fifth time.
Oh, sweet. So you kind
No,
of like you've gone enough where you have your spots that you want to check out and things you want to do.
mm, not, I mean, yeah, it's like, I've got family in that my mom and dad's towns are like very close. So we kind of make our base there. And then this
Ah,
time, I've been to Rome before. So I went to Rome, but then went to Positano, Amalfi, which I'd never been, and Sorrento.
oh,
It was unreal.
yeah,
It was
Amalfi would be
unreal.
nuts.
You gotta go there.
Yeah, that's what I hear. Anytime somebody talks about Italy, I always hear about Amalfi Coast and like
It's
how
insane.
amazing it is. It's like a
It's like,
screensaver.
yeah, it's like a wonder of the world.
Wow.
Yeah.
What now for the podcast, we do one word. What was your
Hmm.
one word for the podcast?
Oh, dolce.
Dolce? Okay. Is that, I guess, related directly to the Italy trip?
No, because when I was just at the beach over here at Lake Ontario because I'm close,
Uh,
and and then I just remembered how like the water there is salt water, but then they call lake water dolce, sweet water.
ah,
I thought that was so sweet.
yeah, that's so much better.
I never heard that before.
I'm gonna go swim in the Dolce.
Yeah, and the dolce, yeah, acqua dolce. Can
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can that be the word acqua dolce?
Aqua Dolce? Okay, yeah, sure. I think that'll
Okay.
fit.
All right. I'm into it.
All right, let's do it. It's funny, like I didn't want you to change it because I had just done a podcast where I guess somehow he misinterpreted it as one word to describe yourself. And I was like, ah man, that's actually better.
A
Like,
one word to describe yourself?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But I'm like, I've already told Sandra to just come up with a word, so I'll just keep that with the theme of the podcast.
Yeah, and then I'll just slowly adjust my camera and am I on an angle?
No, no, you're fine.
Okay. I took
Yeah,
my glasses off maybe, but like then it's hard to see a little bit. But
yeah.
oh,
You're like, something's wrong with your camera, dude.
so
How's
where are
I'm in
yeah, go
Ottawa
ahead.
now. I'm in Ottawa.
Oh, nice. How's it going out there?
Yeah. It's good. I like it here. Yeah,
Yeah, it's cool there.
yeah, it's nice to also like get in touch with, a different comedy scene and see how things are like growing here and trying to
Yeah.
get out as much as I can and do that too. Because I like the idea, like I've always admired comics who will just go to different cities, even within Canada. Like people go and live in Vancouver for like a year or two and see that
Yeah.
comedy scene or Montreal or I think it helps get you outside of that like bubble that can sometimes be the Toronto comedy scene.
Yeah. Absolutely. Like just going away for a month. Like I haven't done comedy in like over a month. And then I was supposed to
Wow.
do a show on Saturday, Joey's show on the road, and then my car, my steering wheel didn't want to move, so I'm like, okay, can't go there.
Your steering wheel didn't want to move? What do you mean? Like the power
Yeah,
steering was out?
the alternator was busted.
It's the
So
worst.
I know,
It's the worst too when you've taken a break from comedy and you're like, all right, I'm finally gonna get back out. And then it's something like that where you're like,
I know,
literally
I
can't catch
know.
a break
But
here.
you really gotta like, when you go somewhere that far, you can't really do anything. For me, anyways, like you need at least like 4 days
Yeah.
because you're too messed up.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Like
Yeah.
it saved me. I think it saved me because I remember it was like 9 o'clock and I'm like, I was so sleepy. And I'm like, imagine if I was driving right now and then having to wait to the end of the show to do the show and then come back. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have
Yeah.
been messed up.
Yeah, no doubt. I
Put
guess
my,
everything for a reason, right?
yeah, I'm putting my glasses back on.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. I want to know too about your special Take It Easy because I
Mm,
promoted that too in the intro.
that's amazing.
How did when did that come together for the material for you? Like how long did it take you for the material that's on that special before you're like, okay, I'm gonna film this and get that get that out there. Because I really appreciate like independently ran. Like I know Macaw Studios has done a lot for local
Mhm.
Toronto comics too, but it is still feels very independent, right? Because you're not you're depending on the algorithm, let's say, for your comedy to pick it up and find an audience.
Um, it was like that year, or it'd been even, well, that was like, so that was just like after one of the lockdowns. So the
Mm,
summer had opened up, which was, what are we, 2024? So maybe I released it in 2020. Why not 2022? I don't remember. So it was like, it was sort of like, I wanted this year, that year. I think that if I remember correctly, I wanted to do it in 2020. And then, of course, 2020 turned out what it did.
yeah.
And so then when we booked this, knowing that, like, oh, okay, we think that, it'll be open. So it's kind of like, it was kind of like that. And then I, I think I worked on the material, like, I still even now, like, I've, I'm gonna record another album soon-ish. Like, I want to, I mean, I hate to say I need to, but it's kind of how it is. But
It's how it goes, right? You get
yeah,
so
yeah, it's
tired
time
of the
to record
material, you're
another.
like, time to put it away.
Yeah, instead of saying I need to, it's like it's time to
Uh-huh.
record an album. So like when I start to do that, like it's just I then start to write out, just put like the list of jokes that I haven't done before. I kind of go there, like what haven't I recorded, and then I put
Mm,
it there, and then that just kind of takes me into it.
yeah. And so do you find like I mean, you're looking at all these jokes that you haven't recorded before. What's the process of like organizing that in a way that makes sense for like an album, right? Because it's sort of Ron James is telling me he's like, oh, the jokes are the adhesive to the narrative. Like you have, a narrative or something about your comedy special that you're trying to get across, and then you're putting in these jokes along the way. What's sort of your like technique as a comic to organize like a special?
Well, it's kind of like I've done like maybe 9 solo shows, 10 solo shows,
Wow.
and then record it, like that's before I would do like these shows, early on, like when I first started comedy, that was like a mix of stand-up storytelling and character stuff and some video. But I started, like, I think my first one I did was in 2002,
Damn,
something like
nice.
this. Yeah. And, you know, it's like kind of, I wrote out scripts, like I put my material into a script and then I start to go through it that way. And then I just, like, I take these jokes where I'm like, I haven't done this. I mean, I'm talking about then what I would do,
Sure.
but it kind of like follows that way that I used to do it. So just take, like, in now with the albums, is take the material, write it all out, like type it all out, and then start to look at it, start to read through it and see what fits, like see where there's a through line, and what, it's kind of like
Hmm.
that way I've done it. Although, like, I think now, I don't know. I think now I'm thinking of, like, the other way around. It was like, okay, what do I want? Like, the next one I'm thinking might be more like not religious based, but Bible based.
Like a theme of that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
potentially. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm thinking that. So yeah, like writing something like that. Because before, like when I would do solo shows, it was like, I would go with a theme. There would be like some, and then when I started recording albums, it was kind of like, you know, maybe the opposite
Just
in
put
a
the funny
sense.
stuff out. Not really like it's kind of thought to thought.
Yeah, in a way. And then, but the
Yeah.
themes emerge. The themes
Hmm.
emerge. So, I mean, everybody does it different. I don't know. Like,
Yeah, that's why I'm so
no-
curious about it. Because like I'm like in the process of building material, right? And as a comic who hasn't recorded anything yet, I don't think I should or if I'm ready at all. I'm just very intrigued by how people who have done many do that process because everyone is different. Like there's people that are like, oh, I do a bunch of sticky notes. Kyle Brownrigg said that he would write out like the first sentence of each joke and then like put a letter for the punchline and everyone has like their own way of like doing things and it's fascinating to me.
yeah, you're right. It really is. Like, when I think yeah, the album I did before this was Baby G's and Other Briefs. And again, like that was like, there was sections um that were more like themed. There were sections
Mm.
of it. Like I had a whole section on tomato sauce. You know what I mean?
Uh,
And Christopher Columbus and this kind of stuff. But like,
yeah,
yeah,
just like
writing a
chunks.
yeah. I know that other people do like, but it's hard, some people really kind of get like a real story out there, like a real full story.
Yeah.
I haven't done,
Have you
yeah, go ahead.
done Edinburgh Fringe Festival
No,
before? Because I
no.
was gonna
I've
say
always
that
wanted to.
yeah, if you had like the religious theme hour, like that would be the place to really like get a because that's what they're used to, right? They're used to people coming in. Like that's where Hannah Gadsby debuted that big comedy special where she won Fringe that year. And they're very used to like the one man show. It's not 100% dependent on like joke, 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 joke. How many laughs a minute are you
Yeah.
getting?
Yeah, like I've wanted to do Edinburgh for years, and then it was always like, well, you got to like it's a very costly adventure. But
Oh
thanks
yeah.
for reminding me because like I just want to look into. I think now's the time to apply.
Yeah, because I think they just wrapped up whatever this
Yeah,
year is. So usually right after would be for next year. I
yeah,
mean,
I've done
like,
so many solo shows. It's crazy. Like I did, it was like there was a style I had, and then when I started recording albums, then it was like okay, that then I got into more was doing mostly stand up. Whereas
mm,
before, when I first started comedy, it was like characters and clown. Like I'm a clown. Like I mean, I've studied clown and I performed clown for a long time. I
you
haven't done,
studied clown?
yeah.
Tell me about that. When did you decide to go to clown college?
When I when I first started comedy in like 2001,
Okay.
I would start to do shows and see people. Mark Andrada, for example, like I met him early on, and that's what he would do is he'd do clown, and he was like notorious, legendary, And I'd watch this stuff, and it was like I remember starting when I watched him for the first time and other clowns, I was like this is like right in the throat, and I'm like, oh my God, what
Yeah.
is this? And then so then I learn about it, and I'd wanted to study it for several years, but like it's 5 weeks intensive, like you have to go every
Ah,
day, and so then finally I worked out my schedule and I could do it. And, it's expensive too. And then I was like, oh, it was the best thing. And then the one thing that I wanted to, the sort of thing that one of the main things that came out of it was just like, I wanted to figure stand up out because
mm,
I tried it, but then I was like, I wasn't sure. Like I didn't want to repeat jokes, so it was kind of like after I did clown, that's when I really got into stand up. But then I really got into clown at the same time.
yeah.
Like my favorite
Like the two
comedians
kind of
are
fed
clowns.
each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a thing with clown which is all about like following your impulse, like there's
Yeah.
like, when you're creating these masks, they have this whole thing where you literally create masks out of clay. But it's
Uh,
all based out of like an emotion, and then you start to physicalize it and then you create and then you create a character, right? And then it's like the instructors, masters of clown usually take you through like your impulse, like impulse one, impulse two, impulse three, and then you just build, 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 and that's what I think like clown, is so great in that way. It was just, it is it's like you're just building this impulse. You're building this um wildness. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
Which
Would
stand
you
up
say that was your biggest takeaway from the schooling was to sort of act on that impulse when it comes to like comedic performances?
like building it, like the wild
Yeah, like
adventure.
that
Yeah.
building with like that was probably like the biggest takeaway that you took from the clown college is
I mean,
really the focusing on that.
there were so many things, but like, yeah, like that whole thing of like, and then it became, it was like my style. Do you know, like
Yeah.
just to go,
It's so funny
to
how
go.
things like that, like you don't think about it in the moment, but then later on when you're performing stand up, you're like, people are probably like, oh, your like expressions are so great, or like, your physicality on stage is hilarious. Like, I love that. And you're like, you wouldn't have that without have going to clown school and doing that intensive like training and then learning about acting on impulses. Like, I love that. I love how it all
Yeah, and then
feeds into
it's
each
such a
other.
great, yeah, and then it's like such a good acting technique too. You use it
Yeah.
for acting. But my favorite comedians are clowns. Like they might not know it or they might
It's a
not have
great
studied it.
tweet.
Yeah. My favorite comedians are clowns. Yeah, you're right. I stopped. I never really tweeted much.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just never got into it.
That's the other thing too. That's so I find very interesting is how different people are navigating social media in
Oh
general
my
because
God.
every day
Don't.
there's a new platform,
It's like the
a new
bane of,
spin at lottery, you know?
it's insane. Like just all of a sudden, I mean, I think it was just like after, you know, like the pandemic really, that's when all that stuff happened. And I mean, it was a test for it, like let's see how people can operate on these platforms. And then now it's not just about like you're doing stand up, but it's like how many likes do you have and how much content you're
Yeah.
putting out. And I really like, I went away and I just got out of that whole thing. And I mean,
Yeah.
not that I wasn't posting, I did. I posted lots of my trip and then today I even posted something. But I'm just like, I don't want to follow the algorithm because it's not natural.
No.
And like like, you know,
It's not helpful either for like any art.
no.
Because positive or negative feedback is going to either way negatively impact the way you think about your creativity. Because you're either going to do something and go, wow, a million people really like it when I do this. And then you're going to only limit yourself to doing that one thing. And then the opposite way, if somebody's like, this sucks, it's like, well, show someone like Mitch Hedberg on stage for the first time. They'd be like, this sucks. It's like, yeah, give him a chance. He hasn't figured it out yet. Like,
Yeah.
but that could really shut someone down and they're like, oh, okay, I guess I suck, because user 96 said so.
Yeah. And that, yeah. And it's just like, it's like the reason we're in the trouble we're in, on the planet is just everything is out of its natural order and everything is following this clock that's made up. And
Yeah.
so everyone's stressed out and everyone's squeezing their third eye when they should be opening it and seeing like, oh my God, look at this amazing creation and following that flow versus this flow. Because this
Yeah.
is only making us more like against each other and like more ego driven. And that's
Yeah.
like the destruction. You know what I
And
mean? I look through this stuff all the time. Of course, there's like all sorts of interesting information, but I don't know. Like
comes at a price though.
it hurts the third eye. Like it really does
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
grade like burn that eye.
Well, that's like the whole problem with Trump saying in the debate that like people are eating cats and dogs. It's like he's just around people who are chronically online and believe anything that comes up in their Twitter or Facebook feed
What did he
instead
say?
of,
I haven't
oh my,
watched.
oh yeah, you missed a lot,
Is it
Sandra.
crazy?
He got assassinated or attempted assassination twice.
I know the first time, but I saw that there was something that happened
Happened
recently.
recently. Somebody tried to shoot at him with an AK-47 on his golf course.
Wow.
And then
What a show.
yeah, crazy. This is the craziest time ever. But like the problem right now is I mean, I think his VP is probably like 40 or like 38 or something. Like he is chronically online, and so are probably the people around him. So they'll see something online and then they'll just tell Trump, I heard the Haitians are eating cats. And he's like, no way, that's crazy. Like, if you just told your parents that the craziest thing you saw on Twitter, they would just accept it as reality because it's coming from you, right? Like someone they trust.
Right.
They're not gonna look into it. They don't have time to do that. And so he just says that. Like it just goes out there. So it's amazing how social media is like impacting literally every crevice of society all the way up to who's going to be the next president of the United States
Ugh,
or who's going to be the next leader of Canada or any other country for that
yeah.
matter. Like that's when it gets scary.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know. Like but it's they're so funny. Like sometimes when I think of the feed on my TikTok, so it's a mix of like conspiracy
Yeah.
and like Bible, like Jesus stuff, and
Yeah.
then comedy and plants,
Yeah.
herbs, whatever. Um, and there's this woman that goes on. It's like such a bizarre thing. It's a funny character, but she takes these two metal rods. I guess they're maybe copper, and then
Okay.
she asks Spirit, like she's like,
Oh,
"Okay, Spirit, will Donald Trump be the next president of the United States?" And then if the rods come together,
not mega occultists.
what is that? What that is?
I don't know. I just made the term for it.
Like she
Uh,
seems like a really clear person, but what a funny like what is this? Anyway, she says, like, she asked if Donald Trump will be the next president, and it says no. And then will Kamala Harris be? And it says yes, but
How
for a very short,
convenient.
but for a very short time.
Oh, okay.
After that, the United States is done. And
Oh,
that's like, I really believe this. Like,
yeah,
not
yeah,
because I saw it in the rods, you know what I mean? But it's just, I'm just saying, like, look at how
yeah,
much
yeah,
is
yeah,
insanity is online. And then
yeah.
you're just like, what is, and then I like this one person that I started to watch, and then they bring up more people that do this. And there's this one girl's like, okay, Spirit, well, um, uh, you know, are aliens invading the US government? And I'm like,
Yeah.
I can't believe what the fuck you're saying. Do you know what I mean?
You
But
know
of
what?
course,
I actually like don't hate that because they at least are coming up with some new type of entertainment. The people that I can't stand are people that are called NPCs, and they'll literally like go on like a live Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whatever, and they'll just act like they're robots in public or in their house or whatever. And they just say weird stuff. And the whole goal is to get people to send them uh, emojis that equal money somehow. I don't understand how
what?
that currency works, but yeah, it's the literally the bottom barrel of social media is people
What's
like,
NPC mean?
oh my God, non-playable characters. So you know when you play a video game, you actually this is a great transition. Holy shit, I'm so proud of myself. You were a Greek civilian voice in Assassin's Creed
It's
Odyssey.
true. How did you know this?
I looked at your IMDb. What do you mean I didn't know this?
Oh man,
How did
that was such a fun job.
yeah, that's so you were an NPC, but you got paid for it at least like in a
Yeah, yeah,
video
thank
game.
God. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
Oh
hope
wow.
they
Oh yeah,
paid
of
you. That
course, of
game is
course.
so huge.
Yeah, it was good pay. I mean, it wasn't like, yeah, it was good pay for the.
Yeah.
I wanted to keep doing, you want to keep doing these things. They're fun.
What did they give you like a bunch of lines, like pages and
Yeah,
pages of stuff? And it's just what kind of stuff were you saying? Were you speaking in Greek or were you like English with a Greek accent?
yeah.
Oh, okay. All
English with a
right.
Greek accent, and
That's
I had
hilarious.
my Greek hairdresser at the time help me,
Oh
and
no.
her mother. Yeah, they were both Greek.
You're like,
So,
oh he.
but it's just like with those games, you're not really following dialogue. You're just saying lines,
Yeah, yeah. And
and then some of these,
they're just gonna plop them in as like responses to whatever the main
yeah,
character is doing. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Instead of being like an actual character.
yeah, 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 right,
So
yeah.
that's so funny. Yeah, I saw that and I
So
was
that's a
like, that's the
non-playable
best.
character you're
That's
saying.
a non-playable character. Yeah. So oh
Wow.
here, I was gonna see if I could find it's gotta be I did like a video on this too on my
I'm
channel
putting my glasses
about
back
these
on.
people. NPC TikTok. It is, there's this one girl and it's absolutely wild. Oh, TikTok compilation. Perfect.
Your background is so good. Like, look at this. It's so profesh.
Yeah.
I haven't managed. No, I did. I haven't managed to get a real setup together. That's
It
like,
took me a little while too.
yeah.
Oh, here.
Oh, Johnny's sharing screen.
So this is a non-playable character. For people listening, go to watch on YouTube.
Oh, we can't hear.
This is a real person. This person pays taxes.
Can we
This
hear her?
person, can you hear it?
No.
Oh, okay. Here, let me reshare with
So
sound.
they go live.
Yeah, they go live and they do this and then they just like do this weird shit.
I am not a robot. Thank you for the roses.
Ben, Harris, thank you for the lightning bolt. Zap.
It's a trend. Tap, tap, tap. Thank you for the rose bear.
Oh my God.
Just skipping around.
Tacos.
Thank you for the ice cream.
Sorry to,
I think I saw one girl once that I was like, I didn't understand what was going on. It might have been that.
yeah,
Like,
that was probably that.
whoa. So what do
It's the
they
thing that
say?
blows my mind. Like I'm so fascinated by. I wish I could do a documentary on it. Like these people just get paid a bunch of money to just pretend to be a non-playable character, and people sit and watch. Like there's like thousands of people that watch these people.
So it's based on a real non-playable character that's in
No, no,
some
no.
video, or they just
They just make it up. They just make up a character
and
and
then
they
they just
just
go on
respond. Yeah, yeah.
to what?
They
Like to
just
questions?
respond to to people sending them things in the chat. So
And
like
that's it.
someone sends an ice cream, then that prompts their character to do a licking motion and say, "Thanks for the ice cream."
What a weird fucking
What a
world.
fucking these people
Fuck right
vote,
off.
Sandra.
That actually depressed like that. I'm getting depressed from well, since I came back to Italy. Like I hear this shit and I'm like,
Like
oh
Jesus
no, I'm not depressed.
Christ.
I'm just like
No,
keeping the sun
no.
up. I'm trying to raise it, but I hear
Yeah.
this shit and I'm like, it is not uh it is
People are
not
not okay.
they're really not.
They're really
It's not
not.
from God. This is
No,
not
no, no,
God.
no.
This is
The
not
internet
God
has,
consciousness.
if our brains are God's computers, the internet is a malware that got installed and it fried our chips. Like people
Yeah.
are, people are not okay. And I don't know at what point did that happen, but like for shit like that to be on social media and not just doing well, like doing well enough that there's copycats that like someone started this and became successful, much like me doing a podcast. There's a bunch of people before me that did podcasts and were successful, so it was like maybe I'll start a podcast. At least I'm somewhat providing a long form piece of entertainment and promotional tool for my guests, but god damn, that's something that like really I just love sharing with people because it makes me laugh so much.
Yeah, it's insane what we've but it's like if you look at it from like I don't know, like you take a long view out and just look at what cycle, like these are just cycles
Yeah.
of time that we're passing through. And so, like I guess in Eastern philosophy they say that we're in Kali Yuga, we're in hell.
Oh.
So it's like we're coming at the
Kali
end of
Yuga
this
sounds
age.
so much better than we're in hell.
Yeah, but we're at the end of this age, which is this
Ah.
age like so the Kali Yuga is like ego hell. But like
Mm.
we're just at the end of it and that we're gonna what's going to emerge is gonna be like
Rebirth.
major like utopia some kind of like heaven on earth. Because there's
Mm.
nowhere to go after this
Yeah.
but love,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Is like who wants to keep doing this shit?
Even people that like, you know, do something bad, most people have remorse, unless you're a complete psychopath. But like, there's not that many psychopaths. Like,
Yeah.
it has to reach a breaking point of everybody just going like, hold on, let's
Yeah.
just slow things down. Let's just take it easy.
Let's I'm trying to go in a gal. There we are. Okay, now I can. I was like, I was looking for the gal. Like this is you're,
Uh,
but no, I'm gonna go back to
did you have the full
speaker.
screen where it was going back
Both
and
of us. It
forth?
was two. It was between you and me. Like it was two. What's your screen?
I just do the split screen because before I did the like
Yeah, you're right.
on the speaker and I was recording it on the speaker, but the problem was it was like I was talking and I was just looking at myself, or the other person would be just looking at themselves, and so you don't get a chance to maybe just read someone's facial expression, which is just such a conversational thing, is to just
I just turned it to
facial
speaker
expressions.
so I could just look at you.
There you
So
go.
otherwise, I'm like I know I'm moved. This is what this podcast episode is going to be. Me
Yeah.
just like finding my where do I position myself? But this feels like more comfortable.
Yeah,
A
yeah,
little
that's good.
soft lighting. It's a little bit soft still, but we're
Yeah.
working on it.
Yeah. Finding the set. I would think it was I had Mike Wilmot on, and part of the podcast was him just walking around his house. Just getting a house tour because he's just
That's so.
holding his computer, walking around talking to me. He goes, I think I'm gonna sit in the garage.
Oh, he's the fucking best.
So good. So, so good. Who's your favorite person that you've gotten to work with like in comedy? Like somebody that you've maybe admired or looked up to that was like a cool hang or a cool show to be on.
Like that I worked on with.
Yeah.
Like in any capacity.
In any capacity, stand up, TV, whatever it is.
I mean, I really had a long partnership with Phil Luzzi, so that was like, you know, definitely one of some of my favorite moments ever. But Precious Chong got to work a lot with her, or he's still working with her. Um, who else? Like, there's so many people.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say
Name your
like
five
when
favorite people.
well when you say like the working with people, it's like okay, yeah, when I think of like long partnerships and like all the stuff we did, those people come to mind.
That's great. I'm glad you
Yeah.
didn't say like, someone I don't know, someone like super duper famous. It was like, yeah, my friends. I liked working with my
Yeah.
friends.
I know people always do that. Like, oh my God, I
Yeah,
did a show. Like I opened for this person. Okay, for sure you want to put that out there, but
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know. I just find that like,
yeah. No, 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 no.
and
I
not that
totally
that
get it.
can't be a good
Sure,
experience,
sure.
but like the best ones are when, when you get to do some real work with some real people.
Yeah, yeah. No, for sure. And you for people that don't know, what we called the mayor of comedy because of
Yeah, that's what
because
they
you were
named me.
starting how would you say it, like a comedians union because that's never happened before in Canada. Like the funniest part to me
Not
was the
happen anywhere in the world.
anywhere in the world. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But the funniest part to me was the politicians that were just like, well, nobody asked. Like nobody ever said like, should there be a fund for comedians? It was
Yeah,
always
it's true.
musicians and artists and just nobody asked. And it's like amazing what you can accomplish just by asking.
Yeah, I mean, really, yes. Yeah, I definitely I'm still working on like I'm not on the board, but
Mhm.
I am there's a big announcement coming soon, so that's very exciting.
Nice.
Um, but yeah, like I think we started it in 2016, 2017, so now we're in our eighth year, and yeah, it's really amazing like how it's kept like we've got a new president, new board, and it keeps on and it's like really, changing things because I
Hmm.
think like the more representation we have, the more like um conversations we have about it and understanding like what is the work that we do, what is the labor behind this work, and and understanding context of like where are we? Okay, we're in Canada, and why are things the way they are? And it was just my history mind that like when people were all, like it was like 2013, 14, there was a big exodus of comics. I'm like something's like what's happening? 2015, whatever it was.
Hmm.
And then I was like, okay, I have to write a letter. And then I did, a lot of research because that's my background. And then,
By
I did it.
exodus of comics, do you mean like leaving to the US or
Yeah,
quitting?
no, leaving to the US
Leaving. Yeah, yeah.
because, it was just like the ceiling is so low.
Yeah.
We know the story, right? And then now
Yeah.
there's another big group of people leaving again. Everyone's working on this visa.
Yeah.
And, and I understand it, but it's like the thing that, so a couple folks are working on is like getting like we have to, I don't know where this is at, but this is something that we started talking about and trying to figure out, several years ago. And what we learned is what we need there is like an equivalent of a cask, like the American Association of Stand-Up Comedians,
Hmm.
because that's how the musicians do it. So they've got the American Federation of Musicians, they got the Canadian Federations, and then that's how they go back and forth. So that's their sponsor. So like if when we have that, we create our own visa classification, and then you would just go through there, and it would be like the P1, like the clown
Yeah.
visa, but then you don't have to lie.
Yeah.
So that I mean,
That's
I hope that in another year, like that is happening.
Yeah. And to me, that's a real, like, tangible goal. For a lot of people to say, like, comedians should get together for higher pay. You're like, okay, well, what does that mean? Like, how do you quantify? Like, it brings up all these questions. But then when you say to someone, like, no, the goal is yes, that, but the goal is also like getting these things put in place to make it easier to go between those markets, like real things that you can apply for or like get a bunch of signatures for or talk to a local politician and have it move up in that way and explain yourself. I think that's something that more people, comedians rather, can get behind, because they can see the long-term impact of the work now.
Yeah, and it's like, it's really turning into like a global phenomenon. Like, the more that we keep doing this, like just recently we had a meeting with people from the UK who are trying to do the same thing.
Wow.
And we're learning that like comedy's not recognized in a lot of markets.
Yeah.
And even in a place like the UK where, they've got a huge industry, um, they, this is something they're looking to make happen so that there is access to funding and that, festivals or what have you can apply for funding, and then it's not just like just for laughs, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so interesting. Like we've been talking to people from South Africa who do this like really big festival, and when we started just talking to them about like what goes on here, because they were saying that at their recent festival, their headliners were American fans. I was like, oh, that's so interesting.
Mhm.
Even you guys, like, right, are using American headliners,
Yeah.
and then when I was saying to them, like, look, for us to leave the country, it's like so difficult. And the guy there is like, yeah, he goes, unless you're British or American, and they get to go everywhere, right? They have
Yeah.
easy access everywhere. Everyone else has a hard time. So that's just a very fascinating thing to know, because you think here it's like, oh, well, this is the way it is, and it's like, yeah, it's not like it's like this everywhere, and why? And it's terrible that
Hmm.
these two empires, really think about it,
Yeah.
that they have that, it's no accident. It's not
Yeah.
like they're more talented. They just, because of their empire status, get to move around more, and that's completely unfair and completely, against, I don't know, it's just against so many things. So, the more that people we talk to, the more people are like, yeah, man, like we got to really like
But it would work the
this is a
same way in
global.
any under like that's what I can't get like I can't understand why it hasn't been done already is because like an alliance of whatever, if you had like a special doctors union and like passes for every single country, and then that way if you're a doctor in South Africa and you want to go be a doctor in Australia, it's easy for you to go do that. And it's like,
Exactly.
you know what I mean, like that should be in all industries, that ability to, you have a skill set, doesn't matter where you learned it, you have that skill set, you should be able to go do that skill set in any other country and
Yeah.
provide the same level of service. It's not like we all live life that differently. You need chefs, you need police, you need doctors, you need lawyers, you need musicians, you need comedians, like these little facets of society, you find that everywhere.
Yeah.
Unless you went somewhere like super, super remote that just, doesn't need it. But that's the off, the 1% case.
And in the case of comedians, where it's like we naturally, like, part of the job is to tour.
Yeah.
But I do like the idea. You're right. It's like you're a doctor. It's like, yeah, why can't I go work in like X market or Y market? But yeah, it's um we informally like created like a global organization called the United Nations of Humor, called UNO.
I love
And yeah,
that.
and and again, we start like when we would talk to people from other countries about this, like, oh man, yeah, that's so cool, because like it'd be like this resource for comedians to allow easier access to move in between markets.
Hmm.
And because at the end of the day, when we were lobbying, like, of course, lobbying takes many facets, but one of the big things was when we lobbied the Department of Heritage, like their foreign affairs, or their other, I guess it was considered the foreign affairs, or the trade department. So maybe in 2016, the Department of Heritage changed their focus from a domestic, platform to like, exporting culture, Canadian culture.
Hmm.
So when we learn this, we're like, oh, like, there's no, greater way, or, cheaper way to export Canadian um, culture than through stand-up comedy, because like it's so easy, it's like, and they really, got into it, and we were going to go, but then the lockdowns happened, but we were going to do our first trade mission in Europe. We're going to go to Stockholm, Berlin, and what was the other place? Anyways, three places. And, to start to build this global highway. And then we
Hmm.
talked to comedians in all those markets, and then basically the idea is like do these exchange tours. So, have three comedians come here, and then they go to different market, like different shows, and maybe a
Yeah.
couple provinces. And then the same would be on the other end. And
Hmm.
because, the idea, not the idea, but just the thing that, it's like okay, let's forget about the US because it's so difficult to get in. Why don't we instead focus on getting Canadian comedians to other markets around the world so that, you create like a trade mission. You start telling the world, hey, Canada's a comedy nation. And we've
Hmm.
all known this. So let's start exporting and start telling the world this story. And
Yeah.
then this way, like, you have tours that are, organized all over the world. And then it raises the profile of the comedians instead of like, you know, uh, d being here for 10, 15 years and then having to go to the United States and start all over again,
Yeah.
you until it becomes easier to move in those markets, right?
Hmm.
And let's focus on outside of these markets. Like, in fact, when I went to Italy, I was like so inspired. Like, okay, I speak Italian, but I was like, I really want to make money here. Really want to be here and do comedy here. Because, I mean, they have, I would, it depends who you talk to, but he's probably one of the greatest, if not the greatest, uh, film and TV, especially film nation of the world, like what they create. Okay, maybe you could say the French would be like, no, it's us, and then there's America. But then, but
Yeah.
that's not considering the markets like Bollywood, which is even bigger, or,
Sure. Yeah.
Asian countries, but still like,
There's historical significance there.
but just that they have these industries. This is the problem in Canada is that we don't have, and that's kind of where we are unique, is that we don't really have a major TV and film industry at all. And that's the real problem,
Yeah.
you know?
Like most shows, people don't recognize were filmed in Canada or they don't care or whatever it is, right?
And there's
It's
so
nothing
much,
so major.
and it's not that it's not good because we've created so much content. Like, I had pitched this show, this like sort of reality show, which is, I think it was called Pilot or Pilots, where it's just like you go into the archives of like networks and all the shows that never came to like, and then you kind of get those casts, and because how many shows, like, even the pilots get filmed but never get shown.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
But
There's
just like
probably so many of those.
the archives of shows, like when we were filming Mayor of Comedy, which is the documentary that was created, like, chronicling this movement right here.
Hmm.
We went and met with uh Lorne Michaels' original, like, first partner, comedy partner, and they had a show on CBC called, oh God, what was it called? But it was the two of them, okay?
Hmm.
And apparently, like, this show ended up being like the like Lorne then took the concept ish and brought it to, pitched it to the US. And then his comedy partner here, and I hate that I can't remember his name right now, but um, you know, like, he kind of left him in behind. And
Hmm.
this guy ended up being the lawyer for SCTV. Okay.
Wow.
And truly, he was like the funnier one of the duo. But then to watch their show on CBC, do you know how funny it was?
Yeah.
This is the 60s. Who has seen this show? And like, we went to his house and he showed us, and I was like, how come we don't know this?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Just got
We as
shelved.
Canadian, that show was on TV.
Yeah.
And it's like it was so great. And it's like there's something about like the fact that Canadians don't even know the content that we've created, and that these things don't remain in our collective psyche.
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
like
yeah.
like how America does, where they remind you all the motherfucking time about all the shit that they made over and over again because they have this, they have this money, power, and it's only because they rob and steal from the world. That's what empires do,
It's facts.
right?
Yeah. No, 100%.
Because
100%.
when you have all the money, when you have all this money to make this stuff, it's like when you think of an American film, right?
Hmm.
When they start doing the promo for the film, which is the most of the budget, they create all this excitement. By the time the film is released and people start going to, like, they've already built the momentum of people going to watch, and it doesn't matter if it's good or bad because they've already gotten people
Yeah.
watching. So it doesn't matter. I mean, yeah, they'll be like, "Oh, this movie didn't do great," and sure, of
But it's
course, the
like,
ones that
whatever.
are,
We already made our money.
yeah, because
Yeah.
people like want to go see the next whatever,
Yeah.
but it's just because of the ads. But that's what we don't have here at all. In fact, like, we're you not in the least.
Yeah. We don't even have like massive billboards everywhere, let alone, massive ad spend into like promoting something. It's the
Yeah, this was
same
like,
shit over and over again.
yeah, like when it was during the pandemic, we were meeting with the city of Toronto, and we wanted to like we had this whole pitch, and I'm not done with it, but basically, you know, New York is considered, like it's like, oh, stand up, New York City, but
Hmm.
like make Toronto a comedy city,
Hmm.
and then
Yeah.
create like create like campaigns around it, so that in Dundas Square you're gonna have like these major, um,
Can you imagine?
billboards. I know, and that like, hey, Johnny Rogers has his new album coming out, and it's like
Yeah.
or it's
On
like
the
the
square.
Gardener.
Yeah, yeah.
Because if you think about, see, we started to follow like some of our earliest, what do you call that? Supporters, I guess. It's not the word, but
Hmm.
allies
Yeah.
were from the music industry. And then we learned about what music did, because I don't know if you're familiar, but like in the 70s, like musicians were being played on the radio but not being paid. So then
Yeah.
a
Oh
group of
yeah, yeah,
people
yeah.
got together and they started lobbying, and now music gets the most money in the country and is churning out these mega stars. And it's no coincidence. It's based on the infrastructure here. Now, some people
Yeah.
argue it's like, wow, they had to go to the US to get famous. But by the time they went to the US, they were produced.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
Drake was already produced. People
Yeah,
were
he was
produced.
already people already knew who he was.
Yeah. And okay,
Yeah.
maybe it took like, who was it? Lil Wayne? Who was it that
Sure. Yeah,
found,
yeah, yeah.
discovered him? Whatever.
Yeah.
Discovered him. You know what I mean? But it's
Yeah.
like,
Just
if
amplified him. Like that's the thing is like that's why a partnership, at least with people in the US, is so important because you could just there are some people with such a large profile in the US that all they have to do is say, I think this person is funny. And now there's an economy built around that person.
yeah,
Like they're hiring people and they're selling out shows and their stuff is getting viewed. And it's amazing that we live in a world where that is possible. But
yeah.
like there should be more from an industry in Canada that can do that by themselves, that don't need an outside influence to say this person's good, you know?
Yeah, because like, when you see billboards of musicians, like, you don't know, like it doesn't say this is a Canadian musician. You're just like, oh, it's and then when you start to realize, oh, that's actually
Mhm.
that person's Canadian, but they're played everywhere and they're famous just because,
Yeah.
so like think about it, in the 70s, that was like 50 years ago. So we're starting where they like we're starting where they like now,
Yeah.
50 years,
You can see 50 years of how that's gone,
and
since doing it.
and I know that, like, because you know I always had these visions, and I can see where it's going to go. And everything that we, talked about and saw is actually happening. And that is so cool.
That is cool. Yeah.
It's very cool. It's like, I never intended this. Like, are you insane? Why? Like, who would want to lobby for Canadian comedians? That's insane.
Yeah, yeah. The worst people on earth.
Well, maybe the worst are the best. You know what I mean?
No, in the best way possible is
Yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean.
yeah. But then when you realize too that
Um,
just like this status of a comedian is the same around the world, whether you're
yeah,
in Toronto or if you're in Los Angeles. Like, it's a status that is difficult, and for many reasons. Now, certain markets have certain, qualities
hmm,
that, like, okay, you're in LA, you could become overnight, like whatever, you could become famous. But
hmm,
if not, you're dragging, drudging. What's the
yeah.
word?
You're drudging through the sand.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. You're trying to find a way to make anything work for
yeah,
sure. Just
yeah,
because you're in a place doesn't mean it's gonna happen for you. Like it, it takes a lot. Like it's not like an I don't think that like anyone would really benefit from overnight success, especially if they're in a position where they're not ready for what that means. And most people don't even know like what that would mean.
yeah.
At least in Canada, you can have this kind of slow build of a fan base
Slow
like
build.
following you.
Yeah,
Slow as
because it's like,
molasses in January.
yeah, and it's like, just in the words, I was just thinking, like, when we're talking about music, it's like,
Yeah.
if there was more support and more money in the industry, when you launched an album, like this is the whole thing, you launch the album, then you get to do a tour, right,
Yeah.
around the country. And then, and that takes many forms, like in terms of marketing. It's doing the tour and then marketing it.
Yeah.
Okay, that raises the profile. You know what I mean? But
Mhm.
here, people are recording albums. They're being played on Sirius XM, which is amazing because it's a source of income. But sorry, what's going to happen in 20 years with Sirius XM? Is the young generation going to get subscriptions to this? And what's like, I'm not saying it's going to go away, but like there can't be just one place that plays Canadian comedians.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not
It's got to
sustainable.
be in as many places as possible.
Yeah, it's an amazing thing, and
Yeah.
thank God for it. But like this is what we need to create is
Yeah.
more of that.
Well, it's good that there's like streaming services now too, like Crave, for example, that will put out like comedy specials and like promote them on there. Like that's a beautiful way to create a second market where you've got the audio through Sirius and then you've got visual through a streaming service like Crave, something just beyond the independent scene, you know?
Yeah, I'm really been impressed with Crave lately because they're creating a lot of Canadian content and it's good stuff. And that's
Yeah.
really super good. And that's what we need to do.
Yeah. Now, to
Like,
shift gears for a moment, I always ask this question towards because we're getting close to when we're going to wrap up, but
yeah.
I ask this question towards the end. I want you to think of yourself as 15 years old. So Sandra at 15. The reason why I say that is because it's easier to put yourself in your shoes of who you were at that time, what you were going through. And I want you to give yourself a piece of advice. What would you say?
Oh my God, at 15, just like take it easy. Like relax. You know? Don't overthink it.
It's good advice.
Or do people usually give longer advice? Like,
No, everybody's different.
okay.
Some people say I would tell them nothing. And I'm like, oh, all right.
Look at you.
Yeah. Here, I'm going to share so people can follow you on Instagram. It's at Sandra Battaglini. All these links are in the description below. Go check out Take It Ease on Macaw Studios YouTube page. Again, down below. Sandra Bat, in case she starts tweeting again on Twitter. Official Sandra Battaglini on Facebook. Go to CanadianStandup.ca to check out all the work that Sandra's done and the board continues to do for comedians. And Sandra, thanks for coming on the show.
Oh man, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm glad we can make the time.
Oh, that's so sweet. I hope I see you in Ottawa soon.
Yeah. Let me know when you're in town. I'll come out to the show.
Where are you doing? Where are you playing at mostly?
Just
Or not
bouncing back
mostly.
and forth between Absolute and Yuck Yucks and going to the occasional satellite comedy show that somebody's putting on in a bar or whatever. I've tried to produce my own shows, but it's tough to do by yourself for sure.
There?
Yeah. I was doing shows in it's called Margarita. It was like a Mexican restaurant. And so I
Yeah.
was putting on like monthly shows, but doing it all by yourself is tough.
It's terrifying.
And I was hosting, you know what I mean? So it's like ticketing, promotion, hosting, then taking people's tickets when they come in. It's
Oh no,
a
no, you
lot.
can't.
Yeah, you can't do all that. I've realized after doing a few of them, I'm like, I can't do all of this by myself.
No,
So I
no.
think I need to reevaluate that, and then I'm going to start reproducing shows.
That's great.
Yeah.
You go to
Yeah.
Laugh Lounge?
Yeah, I've gone to Laugh Lounge a couple times too. That's a fun place to do. Where are you performing when you come? Are you going to Laugh Lounge?
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. That's where I
Yeah,
go
Nick's
pretty
great.
much. I love it there. It's
Yeah.
it's such a fun room.
It's a good spot to be in too. Like I'm
Yeah.
shocked that there's nothing or there hasn't been anything in that Byward Market area.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy.
Yeah. Shout out to Nick.
Yeah. Birdie.
Parody. All right, Sandra. Hope you have a great rest of your night.
Yeah, you too.
All right, take care.
Bye.
You've been listening to The Johnny Rogers Show. New episodes air every Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.